Hey guys, it's me again, Orcs Where we last left off? Well, I ended the last Deku series. So this next one is, what if Deku was Yujiro Hanma's son? Another son, what if? I know. Had this one in there for quite a while. Anyways, yeah, as I was saying, alright, so I'll give you all, who hasn't seen the anime called Baki, a rundown of who Yujiro is. Yujiro, in the world of Baki, is the strongest creature. They don't even consider human anymore. He's the strongest creature on Earth, able to defeat entire armies with his two hands alone. Yeah, and his son is named Baki, or one of his sons. We know of two in the anime, or I think three. I believe it's two. And who they are is one guy called Baki Hanma, which is the son he considered his true son, like his actual son. Then he had his second son, Jack Hanma, or Jack Hammer, depending on which one he went to. Yeah, Yujiro fought in the Vietnam War. Jack's mother was sent to kill Yujiro, and she failed, and he did a very bad thing to her. Leave it at that. He grew up believing that it was his duty, or whatever, his birthright, or whatever, to defeat Yujiro. He trained so hard that he pretty much destroyed his muscles. He overworked them too much, and, well, that he was skinny boy until he was given some nice drugs by a nice doctor, who in the end killed himself because he felt terrible because Jack got addicted. Baki, his true son that he's acknowledged, was intentionally had, I would say. Yujiro found his mother, Emmy something other. I believe her name's Emmy? Emmy or something other like that. She was recently married to a rich man. She found Yujiro. She had a draw towards violence. Yujiro kills her husband. She goes home, assumes this guy's company, while pretty much being pregnant with Baki. Yujiro is not the best father, as you could probably tell, just from these few statements alone. He's obsessed with, he had kids to create someone who could actually defeat him. Because, like anyone would know, Saitama, or any overpowered characters, they get bored when there's nobody on their level, or who could give them some form of opposition. He just didn't have it anyone in his world. Now, Yujiro will have a quirk. His thing is known as... Sorry. I will want you guys to actually name this quirk. I'll give you a rundown. It's pretty much an enhancement quirk. His body is not... his family, like, if any of you know, he has something called the demon back, which is where he flexes muscles a certain way, and when he flexes his back muscle, it looks like the face of a demon. But his real quirk, and I'll say that's like a genetic thing that his family has, which has a unique muscle composition, like more muscles than the average person. What his real quirk is somewhat of a booster like All Might. It's even as powerful. Well, actually, it's more powerful than All Might's. And I'll get started with the story. We start off with Yujiro walking around as he typically would. He's bored, no one can fight him, and he's looking for someone. As Yujiro has looked for different women, and typically it's a strong woman he goes for. So, I'll start off with this. Yujiro is a giant. He's about as tall as All Might. I believe it was 7-2, All Might 7-2, Yujiro be 7-4. As Yujiro walks into a bar, hands in his pocket, and walking forward. I'll put a picture up of him so you guys can know what he looks like. As he walks into a bar, he sits down and asks for a drink. He typically doesn't stay around these hole-in-the-wall bars. He's a man with class. Typically likes to stay around those areas since he's already made a name for himself for being extremely strong. And his job in the anime, like in the Baki world, he's an assassin, like a world-class assassin / bodyguard or something. But essentially what he's doing is he's just passing the time. He's passing the time and just looking for something to entertain himself with. As he's sitting down at a very small, what would look like a children's chair, well, a normal booth or something to anyone else, it pretty much looks like he's sitting in a high chair. Not a high chair, but a too small of a seat, you could say. Or a very small desk. He's sitting there waiting for his order. Just a nice giant thing of, what was it called? Scotch or something along those lines. Strong drink. I don't know any strong drink names. I'll just say he gets a variety. Scotch, whiskey, Kentucky bourbon, stuff like that. Sake, wine, anything really. His alcohol tolerance is pretty much as high as it can probably get. As he's sitting there, he sees a waitress who has green hair and who is pretty tall and muscular herself. As if you guys start to make unwanted moves, Yujiro's just watching this, just wondering if anyone else is going to get involved, and how it's pathetic that those guys are so low that they're even trying to, and even doing it when she clearly told them stop. When one goes to put his hands someplace he shouldn't, the woman grabs the guy's arm and starts twisting it. This is Inko, as you could probably tell. She has activated the quirk I have given her in this, which is another form of enhancement. How you can tell it's active is that it's in her eyes. And depending on how bright the eye is, or like how much it's like engulfed in a bright green light. Sorry about that. Had a bit of a trip in my mind. Is how much she's using it. So for her to be completely using it, it's pretty much like just completely engulfed, and it's like burning bright. Like you could use her as a very poor flashlight in the dark. Right now, she's turning this guy's arm slowly. He's like, hey, what are you doing? As then the other two are like, hey, get off him. As then she karate chops one guy in the neck. After lowering the percentage down, as he goes to grab his neck and fall on the ground, the other guy comes over and tries to touch her. She pretty much kicks the side of his leg, and then pretty much sort of, as you would say, bitch slaps him as he goes back into his booth. The final guy pulls out a knife and is about to try and like stab Inko from behind. Well, actually, it's not a knife, but it's a knife, as he's about to try and slash her. This is a very bad bar, you could say. Like, it's not very good class. It's so far down on level. It's pretty much known for drunken brawls. Yujiro pretty much is right behind this guy and pretty much grabs the big knife. It's like anyone know what a curry is? It's like I'll put a picture up. It's like a knife with somewhat of an angle. Somewhat. It's not a complete angle. It's like a curved blade. Sort of. It's weird. I'll put up one. As he's like, really? You're using a knife on your opponent? As he says, ugh. As he pretty much picks up the knife, and with only his thumb and his finger, he crumbles it into a nice little ball, as then he drops it. He then takes in a breath of air and he's like, if you're gonna fight someone, do it with your own two hands. As then the guy's like, what you gotta say about it? Oh, what are you? Some kind of knight in shining armor? He's like, as he bends down to this guy's eye level, as this guy has just realized how tall Yujiro is, he says, he is nowhere near what you'd call a knight. Now, leave, or I throw you, or I'll be a lot less kind than she was. I wish I could do a voice like Yujiro's. It's epic. Like in the Japanese version, the original version, it's the best. But in English, personally, don't like the English dub, but I think it's much better in the Japanese. It's one of the few animes that I like in the Japanese, because I'd rather read it than have to listen to the actors, because it's not a thing against the actors, it's just that I don't feel like their voices sort of go with the characters. It's kind of, it breaks my immersion, not immersion, but it sort of breaks my attention away from the actual story and such when I'm listening to the English version. Just personal opinion, not saying anything against the actors. Anyways, as he finishes that, he meets Inko. And skipping past that, yes, I will not stay on this part for long. Eventually, Deku is born. Yujiro, by this time, has also had Baki. I believe Baki is 13 by the first anime I think it's called Baki the Grappler. I believe it's Baki the Grappler is the first one. Then he has a second one where he's 15, 15 I believe. And then by the third one, which is the one on Netflix, he's 18 by the end of it. So yeah. Anyways, sorry about that. What's happening now is Deku is, I think 2 years apart. Yeah, that should be good enough. As Deku is 2 years apart from his brother Baki. At a young age, he was shown to be different. He looked a bit stronger than most kids around too. He could pick up heavier objects and such. Yujiro did help Inko in the ways of paying bills and such, and even one time babysat Deku to give her a break. Yeah, this is not Yujiro at all, just letting y'all know. He pretty much once the woman's pregnant and such, he's just alright, bye, as he just nopes out there. He comes around every now and then. But Deku is young, as when one day when Yujiro's watching Deku, he's bored. Deku's around 5 at this point. Baki's 3. Deku comes walking over as Yujiro's just tapping his hands against the coffee table as he's bored. Deku comes over and grabs his finger and is actually pulling on it, as Yujiro's tapping his fingers. He feels someone grab his hand as Deku's trying to stop him from tapping. He's oh, as he keeps on to tapping until to the point where Deku's holding it. He's as he's trying to hold Yujiro's finger in place, he's as Yujiro actually isn't able to put down his finger. He's not using all his strength, of course not, but he's as he smiles. You wish to test your strength against mine already? As Deku's as yes, and he's alright then. As he says, as he holds out his palm, throw punch. He's throw one. As he forms how Yujiro forms his fist, and says for Deku to hit his fist like that, with everything he has. As he throws one, Yujiro's weak. As Deku throws it again, and again, and again. As Yujiro says, as he sort of flicks Deku in the head, sort of sending him into a wall. Not sending him into a wall, but like sending him like, as he like flicks his head back and grabs it, as Deku's forehead is bleeding, he's like, as Deku's about to like let out a tear, Yujiro does the whole no crying. That's pretty much what he did with Ollie Jr. Crying is for the weak. As Deku's like, as he gives a nod. As then Yujiro continues to talk with Deku, but Deku gets older and older. As he can, like, when it comes to heroes and such, he likes heroes, but he like often hears his dad making fun of them. He's saying, "Ha! Many of these heroes are nothing. So weak," is what his dad says. He's like, Deku's like, "How do you know they're weak?" He's like, "'Cause I'm stronger." And she's like, "How do you know?" He's like, "I obtained the strongest in the world by the time," as he like gives Deku a little few stories. As he says, he's beaten heroes far more powerful than any of the ones here. As he's like, "How?" He's like, as he explains to Deku that he goes around the world challenging the strongest animals, heroes, or whatever to fights. As he explains it to Deku. And he says, "Then why are you here?" He's like, to watch my seeds to bear fruit." As Deku's like, "Oh." As he like, Yujiro isn't like Todoroki's dad. He does train him like hell, but he like Endeavor was, I don't know how like tough Todoroki's training with his dad is, but I'm pretty sure Endeavor used his full strength against Todoroki. Like when like you cut back as Endeavor has his fist in the air, I think he definitely punched Todoroki with a lot of his strength. As Yujiro doesn't ever like punch Deku. He like merely keeps it to flicks and stuff like that. But Deku is getting stronger quite quickly, actually. Stronger than what his dad actually anticipated. Until eventually Deku's quirk first appears. As his eyes glow bright, bloody red. As one day when his dad's like telling him to hit a tree, as he's like just keeps on calling him weak, till Deku feels like this immense anger or wanting to prove himself, as it activates completely, as his fist as with one last punch from his fist, he completely blows the trunk out of a tree as it falls. His dad's like, timber. As Deku's like hand is, his knuckles are ripped up and he sprained his wrist. His dad's like, as he pretty much instructs Deku that he's no longer, as Yujiro has seen that Deku has gotten stronger and that he does have that spirit of fighting within him. Yujiro would probably train you harder than Arnold Schwarzenegger. There we go. As Deku like looks to his dad for his approval, he's like, well done, but it took you that many tries to break the tree. As Deku, even when Yujiro's not there, and Yujiro is gone for long periods of time on business trips, quote unquote, he's also training Baki in this time, as Baki's training like Deku. Or even like maybe a bit harder, maybe a bit easier. I'm not entirely sure. But as Deku like continues to grow his strength and cultivate himself, he's growing rapidly. To the point where by the age of, he's pretty much Baki when he's 15. He's like 15-year-old Baki. But he's taller, actually. He's actually quite a bit taller than Baki. I believe Baki is up to like under his dad's chest, maybe a bit in between, but Deku's like up to his chin by the age of 15. As he is eventually squared up against his dad at the age of 15, where Yujiro has like gotten impatient, you could say. Yujiro is like he's like held himself back quite a bit. Like he's been wanting to fight Deku, his most successful one, as he sees it. As when Deku's finally squared off against him. Now, in this time, Inko's and Yujiro's relationship has gone downhill a little bit. Like, beforehand, Yujiro sort of liked Inko. Like, really liked her. Not just like, oh, she's the mother of my kid. He did actually respect her a hell of a lot. Because one time when Deku was training so hard he was throwing up, she essentially told Yujiro, with no one else has ever talked back to him like this, that didn't know how strong he was. She told him that he is taking at least a week and a half break. As Yujiro was displeased by this, and he looked her dead in the eyes, she met his gaze and never faltered once. Not even his Emmy, the one of his successful children, the wife of his successful children, was able to keep his gaze for more than a second. Inko stood right there, toe to toe with them, you could say, for about 20 minutes, just staring at each other. And he's just like sighed at one point. It's like, fine. As then he gets a call on his phone, gotta take this, as he left the house. And Inko and Deku just spent that few weeks relaxing until Deku finally got back to fighting shape, you could say, and started exercising again. And unlike Baki, he doesn't go out picking fights. He spars with his dad, and his dad not his dad, well, yeah, Yujiro does bring about a person every now and then. Like, for instance, some military people, he orders, pretty much every military is at the beck and call of Yujiro. He's like, hey, get me this. Get me that. Get me this. Get that. This. That. That's essentially how he is. And he is literally... everyone's waiting on him. Whatever it is. As Yujiro... As Yujiro calls in special ops guys, like the toughest of the tough, from each military branch that he has under his control, quote unquote, or fears them as significantly enough, they come over and pretty much train Deku. Deku's either told to stand there and take as many punches as he can without flinching, falling, or even moving, or to take down as many of them as he can by himself. As when it comes to both of those situations, Deku outlasts them all. He stands tough when people are beating down on him. He even knocks people out, typically in one blow, if he uses his quirk all the way. As when it comes to the final day, Deku's been hasn't wanted to fight his father, but he hears what his father wants. He wants to taste defeat. As Deku, unlike Baki or even Jack, want to defeat him for personal reasons, he wants to help his dad, truly. He wants to alleviate his suffering, you could say. He wants to let him feel defeat, let him feel happy for the first time in ages. As Deku comes at his dad with all he got, and it's pretty similar situation that happened with Emi. Deku comes rushing at Yujiro, full quirk, full power, as he punches Yujiro in the face, time again and again, kicks him, punches him, headbutts him, sort of karate chops him, try to get him in the eye, choker hold, everything. Pretty much a scene by scene of what Baki does. But in the end, it is not enough. By the time it's over, Deku has only caused Yujiro to get a slightly bloody lip. As Yujiro is finally done with messing around, He pretty much takes a full force punch and punches Deku right in the face, in the chest, then in the face, almost killing, like knocking Deku out, as he's able to still stand after even one punch of a full force punch to his face. As in he was almost as he receives one to the chest, as Deku feels a couple ribs breaking. As Deku's standing there like, as he's like looking like about he's to throw up, Inko arrives on the scene. And when she sees what Yujiro's doing, she sees in his eyes that he's going to kill Deku. As when he delivers another punch, finally sending Deku to the ground, Inko comes in and pretty much pretty much double drop kick Yujiro in the face using the full power of her quirk. As in Yujiro feels like this woman who's probably around 160 pounds, maybe 170, of pure muscle, by the way. As it hits him in the face, he's like going backwards, and he gets even a bloody nose from this, as he's like, She's like, you should not harm him a single more. As then she comes at Yujiro, but she is significantly underpowered against him, as he pretty much tries to say, he says, Inko, you're the only one out of all my children's mothers that I respect. So for that, as he goes to, as when Emi tries to save Baki, what essentially happens is this. Yujiro breaks her spine. Literally, he bear hugs her and breaks her back. As when Deku is able to recover just barely enough, he sees he's about to do that to Inko. As Deku feels an urge to protect his mother, an urge to not see her die, he feels powerful, more powerful than he has in ages. As he grabs where Yujiro's father's arm, where his father's arms are. There we go. Sorry about that. As he sort of pries them off Inko, using both quirks in tandem. Yes, he has his father's quirk as well. Peeling them back with every ounce of strength he can muster. He's using all his arm muscles, all his back muscles, and even his leg muscles in this matter. Yes, it is that serious. As he's pulling his arms off her, he's like, no. As then he pretty much, almost like as fast as lightning, strikes Yujiro right underneath the chin. Yujiro in that second blacks out, not expecting this. He wasn't able to defend or anything, as Yujiro just falls all the way backwards and just falls to the ground, unconscious. As Deku's like, raggedly breathing, like, as he walks over to Inko, he's like, Mom, you okay? She's like, yes, I am. Deku, where's your father? He's like, there. Come on, Mom, we gotta go. Dad probably won't stay down for long. As he's like, as his hand is broken, like almost fractured. He has like a few hairline fractures in his hand, and then he also broke his arm. It's very similar to All Might's quirk in the sense, like, you gotta have a highly trained body that has also adapted to the power to withstand it. Deku's body is abnormal, where there's more muscle mass and such like that. Not muscle mass, but more stronger muscles and like stuff like that. He is much stronger than the average. No, even more stronger than in his normal, like, not using any quirks, he could match let's say normal normal strongman with his normal muscles. He can match somewhat on like the highest tier. He's still a bit lower than them, but he's still got some growing to do. As he and Inko get all their stuff packed and just move without a trace. Completely, Inko moves jobs to a different place and everything. And Deku starts anew, gathering all his stuff. But he keeps one thing. His father took him hunting one time, and Deku was forced to kill a bear by himself. Like Yujiro took him someplace to fight some bears, yes. It's not like a polar bear like his father did beforehand, but he was able to fight a bear and kill it. As what happened is that Yujiro told him that he was not proud of him, but that he did good, and that he was to eat the bear and take the bear's teeth as a reminder and to respect the animal that he had just slaughtered. As Deku accepted it, he did survive. He did a lot of the similar training to that Baki did. As Baki, I'll say, like, instead of him being like 2 years apart from Deku, he's 3 years. No, wait. Right now, Deku's 15, Baki's 10. No. 11. I'll say 11. Maybe. I'll decide when, I'll decide then. As Deku and Inko have completely moved. Now, where we pick back. Now, it's been a couple of months. They have not seen a single sign of Yujiro. Now, going back to Yujiro, what he did when he woke up was this. He's like, huh? As his assistant, you could say, military man, I believe his name is Strider or something. I forget his name. What he does is this. He's like, Mr. Yujiro. He's like, where are they? Where's who? Where's Deku? As he doesn't say Deku, he says Izuku. As Inko chose the name. As he's like, who's that? Like, I know you've been following. I know the government's always following me. They must know who they are. It's like, no, sir. The government knows that you know, so they stopped it. It's like, As Yujiro says, darn it, as he punches the ground, using a lot of his strength, using his quirk, he punches the ground, sending several cracks and sending the ground a little bit deeper into the ground. He's like, damn it. As when Deku was 10, the government didn't let anyone see this. Nobody. The hero agency, not even the hero agency knows at all. But they know one day that Yujiro Hanma disappeared for an entire day, and it took them ages to find them. But when they did, they saw this. A weird man in a tuxedo with his face almost caved in, looking like he wouldn't even survive. And All Might, the symbol of peace, raggedly breathing, with Yujiro actually looking a bit worn down himself, breathing kind of raggedly. As Yujiro says, well done, All Might. I give you this, the second strongest, or you and that guy there are tied for place as second strongest. As then he says this, but now it is time to end this. As All Might says, I agree. You'll be stopped, Yujiro Hanma. As even All Might knows who this guy is. He is feared by the government. And All Might's the #1 hero. Of course he's gonna figure out who Yujiro Hanma is. Who the government's like, hey, you are the strongest guy we know. Can you be on regard just in case we ever need you to stop this man? As when All Might and Yujiro went to fight, they just saw a flash of. They looked like they weren't. no, sorry. What happened is that they saw a quick move of, well, a couple of quick moves as All Might used United States of Smash as he collided fits with Yujiro, blasting what remained of the city around them completely to smithereens. There was like nothing of that city left. And then for the second punch where All Might was gonna hit Yujiro in the face, Yujiro got his fist and put it in a certain way as he lodged it right into All Might's side. As All Might then coughs up a large amount of blood, he's like, as Yujiro's like, that is all Might. As he walked away, sort of clutching his arm, saying, for the first time in ages, I feel pain. As he clutches his arm, walking away. All Might's, Yujiro, as he falls unconscious. And then All For One and whatever happens with them are gone. Nobody knows what happened between Yujiro fighting All For One and All Might. Nobody knows that secret at all. Not even Yujiro. That thing is completely between the three. And that's all there is to it. As eventually not All Might, but eventually we gotta cut back to Deku. Sorry if this thing is a bit all over the place. But essentially nobody, not even the government, knows who Inko and Deku are. And Yujiro isn't inclined to give them some of that information. So, you know what he does? He just focuses on Baki, saying that Deku will appear when the time is right. That if he is to meet his son again, Deku or Izuku Hanma, he will be waiting and will gladly battle him. Saying that nobody has yet come yet next to All Might, or even All For One, to have actually granting him his wish. All Might did hurt Yujiro quite a bit, but he wasn't able to stop him. As Deku is sent to a new school and everything. He takes on the name Midoriya, as Inko sort of said this, that Inko kept her name as Yujiro and her never, completed the deal, never, got married or anything. He said that he made up a lie saying that he works too much and wouldn't be able to stay around. It wouldn't be fair. That he said that he'll come around every now and then to watch and raise the brat, but that it wasn't his thing. As when it came to naming him, he said that he could take his name or her name. He didn't really care. That everything was really up to her, that he would just come around every now and then. And so, with that being said, and Inko had all to say in that what his name would be. And I'll say give you guys a definition. I couldn't find the meaning of Yujiro. I think Yujiro was the characteristics of a rider or something along those lines. But Hanma means son of the strongest father, and Baki means eternal. So Deku's name is weird. Izuku means green. Midoriya means either valley or hero. So Deku is green, son of the strongest father. Or Deku can do son of the strongest father. Anyways, what Deku does in this sense is he's sent to school. Sorry, this is all over the place again. Anyways, what Deku, he gets to school and introduces himself. On that very same day, a few guys come trying to bully Deku. Even though he looks ripped as hell and big, there are some people who still try to bully him. Well, not bully him, but they bully someone else. And at the head of this group is a blonde-headed girl. You guys can tell where this is going. Hell yeah. As she's threatening, calling this person an idiot and using explosions in her hands. As she's mocking him for being so weak, Deku says, "Are you any stronger?" As he shouts that out loud. She's like, "What'd you say?" As she comes walking up to Deku, sort of like a delinquent, as you would say. As Deku just sits calmly there as he's looking at some notes he had to take for class. She ends up like, "What did you say?" As she takes her palm and blows the desk up right in front of Deku, as he's like, "That had my notes in it. And that was my one book I got to take down notes for this class." As he stands up saying, "I said, are you any stronger?" As his eyes start glowing. As then this weird feeling in every single one in the room, even Bakugo, feel it in their bones that this man, this thing that's in front of them, as Deku takes a stance similar to his dad's, he says, "If you wish to fight, bring it. Don't waste it with mindless talk." As he's starting to emit the aura of his father, then he looks down and then looks back. He's like, "No. This is..." As Bakugo's shaking in her, like, boots, as she's like, "What the..." As she's shaking, like, legitimately shaking. As it's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Izuku." As he says it, well, like, he wasn't introduced into class. Like, he just said, "My name is Izuku, just call me that." As she's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Full name." He's like, as he thinks about it, he's like, "Izuku Hanma." As nobody knows who that is. Nobody. Not really, at least. As then with that being said, she's like, "Hanma, I'm Katsuki Bakugo." It's like, "Pleasure." So he walks out of class, going to get lunch. As this relationship is cultivated over a year of her being sort of antagonistic, wanting Deku to fight her. Constantly, she's like, "Fight me." He's like, "No." "Fight me." "No." "Fight me." "No." As she gets fed up one day and just after school says, meet me here." As he's like, "Alright." As it's behind the school, as it's like, as she goes to say, "Now listen here," as he's like, "Sorry, I'm not looking for a relationship right now." She's like, "What?" As she sort of blushes, he's like, "Is that not what you called me back here for?" She's like, "No, what are you thinking, dumbass?" He's like, "You put a letter in my locker, told me to meet you behind the school after hours." You see this sort of scenario, how it tends to play out? She's like, as she's like, "Fight me. That's what I want." He's like, "You sure about that?" She's like, "Yes." He's like, "If I do, would you go on a date with me?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "That's my thing. If I fight you, you gotta go on a date with me." As Deku has actually come to like her, in the sense, like, he feels that she is very strong, and Hanma men are attracted to strong women. I'll just say that. If they are attracted to women at all. Like, Jack doesn't seem to have any interest in women, men, or anything aside from fighting. Baki likes Kozu. Yeah. As Deku says that, she's like, "If you win, I'll do it." He's like, "Alright then." As he gets in a stance, getting his quirk all the way ready. With his quirk on, his power level is equal to that of 40% of Prime All Might. And his body can take it. His quirk is far superior than his mother's. Plus, he has that bonus of having a unique muscle makeup and such. As Banku's like, you ready? She's like, yes. As he took off his shirt, she's like, why are you taking off your shirt? He's like, being prepared. As she sees that he actually has several scars all over his body. It's like, no. As he like looks down, as he looks at her, come. As his eyes are bright red, he's like, I wait. As then she's like, what? As he comes rushing in at him, blasting explosions, he just takes a defensive stance. He's like, is that all? She's like, as then she blasts him even more and more, using more and more explosions to a point that she's starting to hurt her wrist and arms and such. As he eventually grabs her by the arm and sort of puts her to the, like, grabs her by the face and puts her to the ground. He's like, I win. So, I'll see you this weekend. She's like, fine. As she like she's like, let go of me. He's like, good. As he walks over, picks up his shirt. I'll meet you after school. She's like, fine. As she's enraged, embarrassed, and kind of swooned, you could say. She's like, he's powerful. She's confused. She's like, I'm so confused. What is this? As she's looking up and down, she's like, damn it! As she screams out in the air. As that's where I'm going to be ending this first one off at. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. Hope y'all continue to enjoy it. And I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life. And I do hope you guys enjoyed this new series.